Hey everybody, this is Travis Robbins from Robbins Rehabilitation. Some of you might know me, some of you don't, but I'm coming to you from our newest location here in Upper McCungie in Pennsylvania. We have 5 locations in the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania, and I'm here to tell you about a book that changed my life. So that sounds kind of dramatic, but if you listen to the whole story, then it'll probably make some sense, and you might see some of yourself in this story. So about 3 years ago, I had 3 locations. We've been open for about 10 years. It's myself and my twin brother that opened it 10 years ago, and we're surviving, right? We're still open, which is an accomplishment. If you've been open for 10 years, you're doing something right, because 96% of all businesses, no matter what industry you're in, fail after 10 years. So we were open, but kind of barely. We were in a slow bleed, and some people listening to this right now might identify with this situation, but we're just barely making it. Some months we weren't. We were taking out loans, lines of credit to kind of supplement payroll when we weren't able to do it. Some months we had winners, some months we didn't. And I think that's pretty common to private practice owners across the country right now. And the low point came, it was just after Christmas, holiday season, beginning of the year. Most practices struggle at that time of year. And we were just losing way too much money. And for the first time in 10 years, we had to let somebody go. And the person we had to let go was a great therapist that we had, and she was the sole breadwinner of a family of 6. She had 4 kids under the age of 5. I don't know if you've ever had to let somebody go, fired somebody, laid somebody off. That situation is really terrible no matter what. When you have to sit in a room and tell someone who makes all the money for their family that they can't come to work on Monday, that's really tough. And it was a point where I don't care what kind of private practice you have. If your private practice is doing well, then you feel like the hero for your family. You come home on Friday and your kids run up to greet you and they think you're the best. Your wife or your husband gives you a kiss and you feel like you're on top of the world. And when your practice is not doing well, you feel like the world is going to end. And I'm sure people that are watching this right now can identify with that, because most private practice owners are like that, right? So you can imagine, after going through that process, what I felt like. So I knew I had to make a change. I knew that in private practice, most problems are fixed when you get more new patients, right? We're in meetings all the time. What fixes this problem? More new patients. So how do we work on that? What we were doing up to that point was a lot of, going out and pounding pavement. I had 2 full-time marketers that would go out to doctors' offices and try to get referrals, the old traditional way of doing it. And you might be out there right now and that might be working for you. Great. I would say you're in a good situation right now, but that's not going to last forever. And all over the country, healthcare is changing, how physical therapists get referrals are changing, how the hospitals work are changing, and that's affecting everyone. And I know people can identify with that. So at about that time, I met Chad Madden, and it seems like in life, a lot of times when you're at your lowest point, you've got to kind of get to the bottom of something before something kind of appears, an opportunity appears. And I hope you see that opportunity in the book that he has written about all of the things that I have learned from him in the last 3 years. He's taking all of the stuff that he has taught me and hundreds of other private practice owners in the country and kind of boil it down into one book that you need to get. So I know there are people out there that are struggling in private practice right now. The docs are getting bought up by the hospitals. It used to be 10 years ago, I would go to doctors' offices that were privately owned and say, hey, this is what we do. This is how we're different than the other options that are in the area. Give us a try. And they would give us a try, and we would build relationships, and I would be friends. I would be friends with these docs. I would go to their kids' birthday parties. And now I still go, but they almost feel bad when they come approach me, because they say, I can't send you patients anymore. It's how the system works now. Like, my contract's up in 3 years, and they can fire me for whatever reason. And if I'm letting stuff go out of the network, then that's one of the big reasons that people are being let go at the hospitals around here. The hospitals are fighting over market share. So they're buying up all the private practices. And, it's going as far now where I'm at. There's 2 main hospital systems. They are fighting so much that if you work for one hospital system, you're employed by them, you get your health insurance through them, you can't see a hospital, a physical therapist, an MRI center from the other hospital system. Like, they don't even accept their insurance. Like, I can't see employees from the hospital systems because they won't let me see their patients. And it's only going to get worse from here. So I started to kind of see a change in what's going on. I started to see I can't rely on physicians for referrals anymore. And that's how a majority of PT practices get their referrals now, is they rely on it from physicians. And again, if you're doing that, that's great right now, but it's not going to last. So I had to find a way to generate my own referrals. And in this book, it goes through systems that will teach you how to do that, okay? And it's really important that you kind of see where I am right now. So 3 years ago, worst point in my practice. Now I'm in our newest location. We've opened up 2 locations in the last 2 months because of the strategies that we've used. Our other locations are full. We've hired 3 physical therapists in the last 3 months, which is like bananas. Like, it would take us years to hire 1 physical therapist before, but we're in such a growth phase right now because of all the stuff that we've learned through Chad Madden and Breakthrough PT Marketing. 3 different companies have approached us to buy us out. It's not something I'm interested in right now, but just being that visible and other places seeing what we're doing in the area. I mean, I thought it was just like this tiny PT clinic that no one even recognized or even knew, but now after opening up 5 locations, and I think it really was that once we got some coverage from the media about how we're opening up more locations, that had a lot to do with it. Again, I'm not real interested in selling out right now because I've only kind of scratched the surface of what Chad is kind of teaching. So I want to see what I can do with this, and but it's just interesting that I've been approached by that. There's one system I want to talk to you specifically that have really accelerated what we've done, and it's Chad's workshop system, which he goes over in the book. So this Saturday, I will be giving a lecture in front of 50 people that have registered for my workshop that I'm doing on low back pain and sciatica. Just one way to generate your own referrals that Chad has taught me. And when we get that many people in a room, we close about 90% of them into treatment plans. So 90% of those people end up becoming patients in our practice. So by using that system and doing a 1-hour lecture, I'm probably going to get somewhere between 40 and 45 new patients that are going to want to schedule in one of my 5 clinics next week. So if that isn't enough to kind of excite you, just think about what if you went through that system in whatever size practice you are. If on Saturday you had 45 people lined up to become a new patient in your practice, what would that do to your practice? Okay, so. And the other thing is, the game is fun again, right? It used to be on Friday night, I would come home from work and I would be nervous to look into the schedule next week because I didn't know if I had enough new patients in there to keep the therapist that I had busy, right? But now it's more management and other systems that I'm learning from Chad of, okay, what does hiring look like? What does onboarding new therapists look like? What does managing that kind of volume look like? How many hours a week do I want to work? How many hours a week do I want to work in my business versus on my business? How much do I want to teach? I'm big into teaching, so this frees me up to do other things that I want to do. So it's really amazing. And the last thing that I'll leave you with is, if you listen to nothing else that I said, listen to this right now. I'm in my Upper Macungie location. We opened this 3 months ago. We have had 70 new patients come into the office. So I'm full. We'll see 90 or 100 visits this week. I haven't even looked at next week yet. I've hired a new therapist. I have a PT that's working with me here. 70 new patients. Guess how many of those patients came from physician referral? One of those 70 patients came from a doctor writing a script, when it used to be 60, 70, 80% of the patients that I would get, I had to rely on someone else to provide that patient. And now I'm relying on me to get those patients. Those referrals are coming from systems that I put in place that I've learned from Chad Madden that have generated those referrals. I'm not having to go around and shove donuts down the throat of the front office staff of the doctors that I'm begging for referrals. I would beg for referrals. I would go in on a Friday, and if our books were slow, I would go in and say, basically try to round up patients. Is there any patients you got that on your schedule? And it's like demoralizing. It's sad. It's like it's not what you went to therapy school for, right? It's not what you got into this for. You got into this to treat patients. And when your referrals are down and you're just not feeling good about yourself, it completely changes your perspective on life. And the opposite is true too. And I can tell you from experience going through the process of doing this, if you get this book and you read it and you don't see any value, you don't see one thing that you can do that can change you from going from wherever you're at right now, and remember where I was at, to where I'm at right now, then I'll pay for the book for you. Right? It's the best $8 you will ever spend in private practice. It will open up your mind to ideas and things that you never thought of before. It will completely change your outlook on private practice. And if you read that book and you don't get anything out of it, then you email me. My email is travis@robbinspt.com, Travis @ROBBINSPT.com. You can call my cell phone. It's 610-955-3718. If you want to talk more to me about how this book has impacted my life, then I will talk to you all day about it, because I want more stories like me. I want less stories of the guy or the girl that had to close down their private practice because the hospital pushed them out. I want more of private practice in our industry, because it's the best way to do physical therapy. And if you're in private practice and you're listening to this, you know that I'm right. You know that private practice is the best way to execute physical therapy for a million different reasons. So I want to help Chad Madden. I want to help Breakthrough PT Marketing achieve their goals of changing private practice physical therapy. Thanks, guys.